Hey guys, today we are going to talk about a bunch of very economical airbrushes. All of these airbrushes can be bought for under $30 each. So while I'm not necessarily all gung-ho, hey, buy the cheapest airbrush all the time, I have some really expensive ones. I do understand some people have much more of a budget, and when you're starting out, you may not want to spend so much. So we're going to look at all 6 of these. As we get later into the video, we're going to rank them from worst to first. Okay, so no particular order. We're going to list these airbrushes. These are the ones we're going to be talking about today. This is the bd130, and I know that it says starterairbrush.com on there. With the exception of this airbrush, and this may be made by Fengda as well, but I do not know and do not have a model number for that. All of the rest of these airbrushes are made by Fengda, and they have model numbers that would coincide with that. All made by Fengda with different manufacturers putting their name on it or different suppliers. So this is the bd130. The .0 BZ360 is the bd180. This startairbrush.com, Start Airbrush. This particular airbrush is the 180T. This is the 182K. And this is the 183K. And then, of course, the Avanti. I'm going to go into some of the things that are familiar with the airbrushes that are the same between them and some of the things that are different amongst them. If you just want to get to the rankings to where I'm ranking them, scroll on up to about 6 minutes into this video and you'll be able to. And I'll have links, of course, for all of these products. Okay, and here are all of them with the nozzle cap off. So the head assemblies are out on these. And this one being very similar to an Iwata Eclipse. It's 2-piece, but that should always be treated as 1 piece. This is another drop-in nozzle, self-centering drop-in nozzle. It is in 1 piece, and that's very similar to the Iwata Eclipse or the Badger Patriot, Badger Omni, and so forth. Pretty common, although none of those parts interchange with the Badger or Iwata airbrushes. The 130, of course, the nozzle has to be screwed out of the body of the airbrush. In order to service that, you can try to run a striping brush through the inside through the bowl, but it's not particularly easy. And these both come out, and you just treat the head assembly as 1 piece. I would recommend it at all times. Okay, since these brushes seem pretty similar at first glance, let me show you the difference. This particular brush threads in, and this one, the thread is here and it slides in to an O-ring just like a micron. Back over to the 180 airbrush, and when I say just like a micron, this is a micron, actual micron head assembly, and this is the one that comes off of the .0 PZ360, and this wheel thread in there. They are completely interchangeable parts, although the tolerance and specs, I can promise you, on an actual micron are much better and much higher quality. If you guys have any questions about any of these airbrushes, make sure you ask them down in the comments. The one question you're going to ask probably, how many airbrushes do you own, Bill? And I'm going to answer, I refuse to answer that on the grounds that it may incriminate me. This assembly right here that comes in back, and that's the spring assembly that pushes back against the trigger, is going to be the same in all of these airbrushes with the exception of the .0 or we can call it the 180. It screws in right there. They're all going to be the same, identical. There might be some slight differences in quality, and the handles are going to be a little bit different in whether they have a cutout or not. But other than that, they're exactly the same. The 180 has a spring tension adjustment right here, so you can tighten that independently of your piece that threads in. But they are all going to have that same except that, and of course the handles will not interchange. because they are different. That handle will not interchange with any of the other airbrushes, but all the other airbrushes handles will interchange. They're the same thread, same exact design. So my wife, who's helping me film this video, also wants to know how many airbrushes I own. She thinks I own about 20, so we're going to go with that. It's maybe a few more than that. But anyway, now what we're going to go ahead and rank these. We are going to rank them from worst to first. So the first thing you see is going to be the one that I rank the lowest, and the last thing you see is the one I rank the highest. Let's get back to work. Okay, so let's look at the Avanti. And it, overall it doesn't look that bad. It weighs in, and it weighs in at 3.5 ounces roughly. But it was let down by the fact, look at the small, tiny opening on that cup, and even the threaded piece right there, how ridiculously small that is. Going to make it extraordinarily difficult to clean, and which is really a letdown considering it had that, really nice nozzle setup, two-piece nozzle setup that I was looking forward to. I was expecting a lot out of this brush. Unfortunately, I really was let down with this. It is definitely not a staple in my airbrush repertoire. So you can find more about this airbrush in the review, which I will leave a link for. Going to move on to the 130, and that's going to be next up on the list. And the 130 airbrush, not bad, and I have full-length review on this airbrush as well, which, like I said, it doesn't matter what names on the side of it, they're going to be the same. Again, not real thrilled with the trigger, but the trigger is better than, the one on the Avanti. See the thickness of that? That's just definitely a little more heft to it. But the only reason this comes in where it does is because of the fact that you have to, unthread the nozzle to service it, which they are prone to getting broken, especially with new beginners. And if you have to take them off and on a lot, and when you're first learning, you're going to be cleaning your airbrush out a lot, they will tend to get damaged over time. But other than that, they're actually pretty decent performers. They do okay. It just would not be my first choice to recommend this to a beginner because it's just not going to be durable enough. Those nozzles are too easily broken. And it weighs in at 3.6 ounces. Next up is going to be the 180, and of course this one's the 0.0 PZ360 is what it's called. And these are a great introduction to what a detail brush should be, but being that they're very much designed to be a detail airbrush, they come with those finicky things like you have to be really careful with what paint you use. So this is a 0.18. The MAC valve on this is utter garbage, and unfortunately, and that's one of the downfalls of this airbrush. Other is the trigger is response for a detail airbrush. It just doesn't quite shine. It's not bad. It's at least it's a rounded trigger, and they do okay. And this is held up for a long time. Overall, it doesn't look that bad. It's held up very well. It's dirty inside right now, as you can tell. I have used this a lot. But they're not great, and I think that there's just better options. I don't think when you start out you should be focused on a detail airbrush anyway. And that weighs in at 3.4 ounces. Moving up, and we're going to go with the 180T, I believe this is. So this is a surprise brush to me, and I got this brush. It came with a cordless airbrush compressor kit from the no-name brand cordless airbrushing kit, and I was not familiar with these, and so this was a very pleasant surprise because it's pretty darn well built. Of course, fit and finish on these are not going to match, an Iwata or a GSI Krios or a Harder and Steenback. The fit and finish is just not flawless on these. However, the Mac valve is perfectly operable. It is, pretty decent. I wish this trigger was rounded instead of flat on top, but it's not that big a deal. But I will say this much. The trigger on the back end of that trigger, notice how that is flat, how it's squared off. So it's been machined and then, honed back to be squared off, which none of the other airbrushes have. They're a little bit rounded. So what you have is a surface that meets up, that is flat, meeting up to a flat surface, and it makes it more stable. It gives it really good trigger response. The trigger response on this is very, very good. The only downside to this airbrush at all is that the needles are rough, but all of these airbrushes, the needles are pretty rough. So if you were to polish the needle on this, you would have something pretty nice. It's nothing that I could complain about at all. And the fact that you can just remove the head to be able to clean out, that is pretty nice. It's got 2 air holes instead of 3, but the atomization of it's pretty good. I do not have a full review on this airbrush just yet, but I will be having a full review of this airbrush, and I will have a link for that. And of course, this one weighs in at 3.6 ounces. And of course, that is going to bring me up to the Timbertech AG183 and the 182, I believe that is. So this is they're the same brush, only this is the siphon feed version. And you can pick up this particular brush at Spraygunner, spraygunner.com, and I will leave you guys a link for that. And you can get this one in a 0.5 for 25 bucks. You can get it with a hose and 3 different nozzle sets, the 3, 5, and 8 for $40. And they also sell this in an 8-pack for $200, which is really cheap. As far as siphon feed cheap airbrushes go, no question about it, these are much better than, say, the Harbor Freight Deluxe or the 0.0, the cheaper Master siphon feeds. These are way, way, way better. And of course, this one weighs in at 3.8 ounces. So being that these brushes are pretty much exactly the same, this is a brush you can get at 0.3, 0.5, and 0.8 nozzle is what it comes to. Price on this is about $23 on Amazon. Spraygunner is going to start carrying these. And so that comes with all 3 nozzles. It came with all 3 nozzles, a hose, and the airbrush for like under $25. And that weighs in at 4.2 with the cup on it. So it's a little heavier, as you can tell. It's a little heftier. My complaints on it were that this is not tight. And, that has been... And I'm not a fan of screw-in cups, but, that's going to just be something you would just have to live with. And some people actually like them. But unlike the Avanti, you have plenty of room to get in there and clean it out. If you were to compare that, like the hole size in the... Or, sorry, that's not the Avanti. If you look at the hole size in that, and then look at the hole size in this, there's no, I mean, that's huge, right? So these are by far, and I have a full review on this airbrush, this is by far my favorite of the cheap airbrushes. Especially for beginners, because of the fact that you have very good nozzles that are very easy to clean out, and they are very, very well done little airbrushes. Are they perfect? Absolutely not, but they are really, really good. And at this price point, I haven't found anything better at this low, super low end price point. Okay, tried to get through that as fast as I possibly could. We went from 0 to hero in there. I have reviews of most of these longer reviews on each one of these individual airbrushes. A couple of them I don't have yet. I will get them in there in the very near future. And yeah, anyway, I haven't introduced myself yet. I'm Bill Kennedy with the Airspace. And I hope you got something out of this video today. I hope you enjoyed this channel. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, all that good stuff. Well, I guess that is going to have to be a wrap because now I have to go catalog my expenses for my wife. So, I don't know what I did. Anyway, y'all have a great day. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye.